Here's the finesse fishing Triforce. Now that I have my new finesse setup all ready to go, I wanted to talk about the 3 baits that I throw when I bring just a finesse setup like this one to catch not just a number of fish, but also especially now in the post spawn to catch some big fish. Especially now with the water warming up, I'm going to start with kind of like top water and then work my way down the water column and kind of fishing that top water. One of the best baits is a Zoom fluke. The fluke. It's not the super fluke, which is heavier and has a belly slit. This is a very thin plastic, and I'll simply rig it through the nose with a little kind of wacky style hook as a weed guard. And this is going to be your kind of soft style jerk bait. So you're going to just jerk this, and if you work it pretty quickly, you can get this bait to jump out of the water like a filleting bait fish, and you can get a lot of great reaction bites with this. Then we'll go to a 3-inch paddle tail. This can be fished on a jig head. This is the rig that my girlfriend outfishes me with every time I go fishing. However, you can also fish this weightless on an EWG hook and use it like a small buzz bait through the top of like lily pads or vegetation. And when I'm fishing these 3-inch paddle tails on a ball head jig, I like to keep my retrieve really steady so that I can keep it at one single depth, but I also like to keep that depth right on top of grass. So if you see grass growing in your water, you want to keep this paddle tail right on top of it. And where the grass is a little longer, this paddle tail will kind of hide in that grass and come back out, and it'll look like a really realistic bait fish just kind of swimming around. While the 3-inch paddle tails are really easy to fish and will catch a lot of fish, I really suggest you learn how to mid-stroll with something like a ball head jig and a minnow. The reason for this being is that a lot of people fish a paddle tail, but when you can learn to fish a mid-stroll with a little minnow like this, you can catch a lot more bass because you can get that same subtle kind of bait fish presentation, but without the same repeating action of a paddle tail that the bass has seen for decades. This is the wing fluke from Zoom. This is a newer bait, but it's a really great mid-strolling bait, but also you can do it with just a jig head and also use the fluke that I was talking about earlier. The mid-stroll is a great option, just like the paddle tail, to kind of come in the middle of that water column. But if your fish are eating off the bottom and kind of hugging the bottom during the middle of the day, the Nico rig is a great option. While you can use bigger worms in like a bait casting setup to fish deeper and catch big bass, a Zoom finesse worm on a smaller Nico rig is a killer option, especially on light line and light gear. This is a really great way to catch a bunch of bass. You can fish this around vegetation, especially if you use a hook that has a weed guard on it, or slightly hide your hook point in that plastic. You can be pretty brave with this and fish this around vegetation and get those finicky bass that are hiding deep in cover. Now I know this is a Triforce video where I show you 3 baits or rigs to catch fish, but especially when we're talking about finesse fishing, sometimes the good old 3-inch wacky worm is the best option to catch a bunch of bass. So what are you waiting for? Get out there.